Don't come to Mom's funeral tomorrow. Family only. You're not welcome. The text lit up my phone just as I merged onto the 405, the sun bleeding across Los Angeles traffic like molten glass. I was on my way to LAX, minutes from boarding a red-eye to Chicago for the service. My heart kicked hard against my ribs. The sender's name, Ethan, my younger brother. For a second, I thought it had to be some kind of sick joke. Then I saw the rest. We've decided you don't belong with us anymore. Find your own way to say goodbye. I eased the car off the freeway into a rest stop, hands gripping the wheels so tightly my knuckles went white. The world outside blurred as I stared at the message, reading it again and again until the words started to vibrate. I'd spent the last 3 days coordinating every detail of our mother's funeral, booking flights, negotiating costs, covering bills no one else could afford. And now, my own family had cut me out like a stranger. I tried calling Ethan. Straight to voicemail. Then my sister Claire, my stepfather Raymond, my Aunt Linda. One after another, the same dead silence. A wall. They'd clearly planned this together, drawn a line in the sand, and left me on the wrong side of it. Yesterday morning, Ethan had texted me non-stop, insisting that Mom deserved the best, the premium casket, the custom floral arches, the catered reception for 200 guests. I didn't hesitate. I wired $15,000 directly to Silver Oak Funeral Home for the platinum package. Not that they knew Silver Oak belonged to me. The irony burned. For 5 years, they'd been living off what they believed was Mom's thriving investment portfolio. In truth, I'd been the one quietly keeping them afloat. When her medical bills started swallowing everything, I stepped in, disguising every transfer, every payment, under the Morrison Family Trust. I paid off Ethan's student loans, Claire's divorce settlement, Raymond's mountain of credit card debt. All without a single thank you. Now they were locking me out of the funeral I'd paid for. The funeral held at one of my own facilities, Silver Oak Memorials, the business I'd built from nothing but a broken savings account and a borrowed pickup truck. From one tiny parlor in Reno to 75 locations across the western states. Annual revenue north of $400 million. I'd given everything, my 20s, my marriage, my peace, for this empire. And still, I wasn't family enough to say goodbye to my mother. I sat there for a long moment, the hum of the freeway fading into a low, bitter drone. Then I scrolled through my messages one last time. No explanations. No regrets. Just silence. My reflection in the windshield looked unfamiliar, colder, sharper, hollowed out. "All right, Ethan," I whispered. "You don't want me there. Fine. But this isn't over." The sun dipped below the horizon, the city glowing in the distance. Somewhere out there, my family was preparing for a funeral I could have stopped with a single phone call. But I didn't. Because sometimes, the dead aren't the only ones being buried. I dialed the number from memory, the direct line to my flagship location, Silver Oak Memorials in Pasadena. "This is Amanda Lee speaking. How may I assist you today?" "Amanda, it's Emily Carter," I said, my voice low but steady. "Owner and CEO of Silver Oak Memorials. I need you to cancel the Carter family service scheduled for tomorrow morning. Immediately." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. "Ma'am, that's a major service. We've been preparing for days, flowers, catering, the full reception. Are you absolutely sure you want to proceed with that cancellation?" "Completely sure," I said. "Cancel everything. The viewing, the service, the burial, the luncheon. Refund nothing. The Carter family has decided to make other arrangements." "But Miss Carter," Amanda said carefully, "they've already paid the $15,000 deposit, and most of the preparations are complete. The floral order alone stays with us," I interrupted. "Treat it as a cancellation fee for the inconvenience." Donate every arrangement to hospitals and nursing homes. Redirect the catering to shelters and community kitchens. No waste. Amanda hesitated only a moment. Understood. And the client record? Add the Carter family to our permanent no-service list. All 75 Silver Oak locations, effective immediately. Make sure every regional director is notified. And send a formal cancellation notice to the family within the hour, clear, professional, and final. Yes, ma'am. I'll handle it personally. When I hung up, the silence in my car felt like a storm that had already passed but left everything hollow. My pulse thudded hard as I stared through the windshield at the blur of cars rushing past. This was where it had come to, family exiling me from my own mother's funeral, and me shutting them out of my life's work in return. The Carters had always been difficult, prideful, entitled, constantly comparing, competing, pretending to be something we weren't. But I'd never imagined they would push me this far. I had always been the one who held everything together, the fixer, the responsible one, the person who cleaned up everyone's messes. Ethan spent his 20s drifting between ideas and debts, always chasing shortcuts. Claire had perfected the art of leaning on others for stability while pretending to be self-made. Raymond, my stepfather, played the patriarch when it suited him but couldn't balance a checkbook if his life depended on it. While they lived in the illusion of security, I lived in reality. I worked 3 jobs through college and business school, building something real, something that mattered. When I landed my first position at Henderson and Grace Funeral Services, I discovered an industry most people avoided, a business that demanded grace, empathy, and steel. Death had a way of revealing people's true selves. The hours were long, the emotional toll heavy. But for the first time, I felt a calling. Helping families navigate their darkest moments gave me purpose. I learned everything: embalming, logistics, legal documents, grief support, property management. I mowed lawns when the grounds crew didn't show. I comforted crying mothers at midnight. I drove hearses myself when no one else could. 2 years later, I bought my first failing funeral home in Reno, Nevada, a tiny, debt-ridden place with flickering lights and one old hearse that broke down twice a week. Everyone told me it was financial suicide. I turned it into the first Silver Oak memorials. I poured every dollar, every ounce of energy, back into it. I didn't take a vacation for 5 years. Slowly, families began to trust me. They told their neighbors. Word spread from Reno to Sacramento, Los Angeles, Phoenix, Dallas. Every time I opened a new location, I made sure it reflected the same values: dignity, compassion, excellence. By the time Mom's health began to decline, Silver Oak was flourishing, quietly funding the very family that had turned against me. Mom thought her medical bills were covered by her insurance. Ethan believed his student loans were paid from the Morrison Family Trust. Claire assumed her kids' private school tuition came from Raymond's business earnings. None of them knew the truth. I'd built an empire strong enough to carry them, and they had no idea I'd been the one holding up the weight. Now, sitting alone in my car, I finally realized something brutal but liberating. I'd spent my whole life rescuing people who wouldn't hesitate to let me drown. So, for the first time, I wasn't saving anyone. I started the car, pulled back onto the freeway, and drove toward the city lights, toward whatever came next that didn't include them. For years, I'd been their invisible lifeline, the quiet safety net beneath every bad decision, every crisis, every overdraft. They never knew how many times I'd stepped in to keep their lives looking perfect, how many nights I'd spent moving money between accounts so the illusion wouldn't crack. Meanwhile, at family dinners, I was the punchline, the odd one out with the dark, depressing career they didn't like to mention in public. My phone lit up with Ethan's name. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity, or maybe defiance, won. "Emily, what the hell did you do?" His voice came through so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Good evening, Ethan, I said evenly. How's your night going? The funeral home called, he snapped. They said Mom's service is cancelled. Cancelled. And they said we're permanently banned from every Silver Oak location. What did you tell them? I told them the truth, I said, calm as glass. The Carter family no longer requires their services. You can't do this. You paid the deposit, but it's still Mom's funeral. You can't just. I actually can, I cut in. Since I paid for the entire thing, and since I was told I'm not family anymore, it only seemed fair to let you handle your own arrangements. There was silence. Then, a shaky, Emily, come on. You know I didn't mean that text. We were just upset. Upset about what, exactly? I asked. What am I being punished for this time? He hesitated. Raymond said you've been different lately. Like you think you're better than the rest of us. With all your money now. I laughed softly, but it wasn't amusement, it was disbelief. Money. That's what this is about. Tell me, Ethan, what money do you think I have? Your company, he said, defensive. Funeral homes make good money, right? You've got, what, a few locations. You're fine. I opened my laptop, fingers flying over the keys as I pulled up the financial records I'd hidden for years. All right, I said. Let's talk money, then. I waited a beat. How much do you think Mom's medical bills cost over the past 3 years? I don't know, he said. 50, 60 grand. Insurance covered most of it. $348,000, I said. Paid in full by Silver Oak Memorials. Her insurance was cancelled 2 years before she died. She couldn't afford the premiums anymore. The silence on the line thickened. And your grad school loans, I continued. What were they, 30,000? 35? Something like that. 121,000, including interest. Paid off last year. By my company. He didn't say a word. Claire's kids' tuition. Her husband's business loan that mysteriously got refinanced. Raymond's credit cards. The second mortgage on the house you all think was paid off years ago. Every single one of those bills came through me. Emily, what are you trying to say? His voice was quieter now. I'm saying this family hasn't been living on Dad's pension or smart investments. You've all been living on my work. On Silver Oak Memorials. On the business you mock at dinner parties. That's impossible, he stammered. You're exaggerating. Am I? I asked. Check who paid Mom's final hospital balance at St. John's. Who wired the payment to clear the mortgage last year? Who's been covering Claire's monthly tuition transfers and Raymond's credit lines? Go ahead, check. The only sound was his breathing, uneven, heavy. I built this company from nothing, Ethan. From one broken-down funeral home in Reno to 75 facilities across 6 states. $420 million in annual revenue. I didn't just pick a morbid job. I built an empire while you all called me an embarrassment. He was silent so long I thought he'd hung up. Then, in a small, unsteady voice, why didn't you ever tell us? Because I knew this is exactly how it would go, I said. The second you knew, I'd stop being your sister. I'd become your bank. He tried to respond, but the words caught in his throat. I'm done saving people who wouldn't show up for me, I said finally. You wanted me out of the family, Ethan. Congratulations. You got your wish. I ended the call before he could speak again. The phone slipped from my hand and landed on the passenger seat with a soft thud. Outside, the night lights of Los Angeles blurred into streaks of gold and red. For once, the silence felt like freedom. So, what happens now? Ethan's voice cracked through the phone, jagged and tense. "What's your plan here, Emily?" "My plan?" I said, keeping my tone steady. "You figure out how to pay for Mom's funeral yourselves. And those mystery deposits that have been hitting your accounts every month, those stop tonight at midnight." "You can't do that," he said, panic seeping in. "We can't afford the funeral without your help. You should have thought about that before you cut me out of the family. We'll just call another funeral home." I almost laughed. Good luck with that. Silver Oak was the only facility in the county with open scheduling this week. Henderson and Grace is booked solid through next month. You'll be lucky to find a viewing slot before spring. You can't do this. Mom deserves a proper service. She deserves a lot of things, I said quietly. She deserved children who respected each other. She deserved honesty about what was really going on with her bills and her care. She deserved better than all of us. Ethan exhaled hard. "What do you want from us, Emily? What will it take to fix this?" "I want you to understand that choices have consequences," I said. "You decided I wasn't family. So now, you get to handle family business without my involvement, or my money." There was a long pause. Then, almost pleading, "How much would it cost to reinstate the service?" "It's not about money anymore," I said. "It's about respect. About how we treat people, especially family. Something all of you seem to have forgotten." He went silent. Then, softer, "We're sorry, okay? We made a mistake." "Sorry doesn't fix the kind of damage you've done," I said. "It took years to build trust in this family, and it collapsed in one afternoon. So, you're really just going to let her be buried without a proper service?" "I'm not doing anything to Mom," I said. "You all made this happen." When I hung up, the calls started immediately, Claire first, then Raymond, then Linda, even distant cousins I hadn't heard from in a decade. I let every single call go to voicemail. Then I turned off my phone, sat in the quiet, and let the weight of it all settle. 20 minutes later, I turned it back on. 14 voicemails. 37 text messages. I opened one from Claire. She was sobbing so hard she could barely speak. "Emily, please pick up. I know what Ethan said was horrible. We were wrong, all of us. Please don't punish Mom because we were stupid and jealous." I hesitated, then called her back. She answered instantly. "Emily, thank God. Please, can we talk about this?" "I'm listening," I said. "We've been awful to you," she said, words tumbling out between sobs. "I know we don't deserve forgiveness, but please, don't let this ruin Mom's goodbye." "I'm not punishing Mom," I said quietly. "I'm protecting myself from people who've made it painfully clear that I don't belong." "We do value you," she said desperately. "We were just jealous, okay? You've always been so successful, so in control. It made us feel small. So, excluding me from Mom's funeral was your solution." There was a pause. "It was Raymond's idea," she admitted. "He said you embarrassed him at the hospital when you corrected him about the insurance forms." I closed my eyes, exhaustion pressing down on me. "Claire, I knew about the insurance because I was paying Mom's bills. For 3 years." "What do you mean, paying her bills?" "I mean everything," I said. "Her hospital care, your mortgage, Ethan's loans, Raymond's credit cards, the family home, all of it. Every major expense was covered by my company. Silver Oak Memorials has been carrying this family for years." The silence that followed was heavy and raw. "Why didn't you ever tell us?" she whispered. "Because I wanted to believe we were still a family built on love, not dependency. I didn't want you to treat me like an ATM. I wanted you to invite me to things because you cared, not because I paid the bills." "Oh my God, Emily," she said, her voice breaking. "We had no idea. I know, I said softly. That was the point. Can we fix this somehow? She asked after a long pause. Can we make this right? I stared at the dark road ahead, city lights flickering in the distance. Maybe, I said finally. But it starts with understanding that family doesn't exile family. Ever. And it only works if everyone actually changes. What would it take to bring the service back? She asked. I let the question hang in the air for a moment before answering. It would take something this family hasn't shown me in a long time, real humility, and respect that isn't bought with money. Marcus's call came an hour later, just like Jennifer promised. For once, his voice didn't carry that sharp edge of competition I'd grown used to. He sounded small. Human. Emily, he said quietly, I owe you the biggest apology of my life. Jennifer told me everything, about the medical bills, the mortgages, the tuition, all of it. I had no idea what you've done for this family. I stayed silent, letting him speak. I was jealous, he continued. You were always the one who had it together. Confident. Successful. And I felt useless. Instead of being proud of you, I resented you. And that resentment turned ugly. Excluding you from Dad's funeral, it was cruel. I can't even justify it. Why jealousy, Marcus? I asked softly. Why not pride? Because I was insecure, he admitted. Every time you walked into a room, I felt like I was standing in your shadow. You built something real, something lasting, and I hadn't. But I see now how wrong I was. Success isn't supposed to divide siblings. It should unite them. I felt something in my chest unclench for the first time in days. You've grown more in 5 minutes of honesty than you have in years, I said. He laughed bitterly. I deserve that. Emily, would you please reinstate Dad's funeral service? I'll cover every cost myself if I have to take out loans. I smiled, leaning back in my chair. It's already reinstated. I called Amanda half an hour ago. He exhaled, almost laughing in disbelief. You already fixed it? Yes. Dad will have the beautiful farewell he deserves. But Marcus, this conversation right now. This is what family sounds like. Accountability. Love. Understanding. Remember this. I will, he said. And Emily, thank you. For taking care of us even when we didn't earn it. 2 days later, the service at Silver Oak Memorials was flawless. The chapel glowed with soft candlelight. The mahogany casket I'd personally chosen gleamed beneath cascading white lilies. Friends from every stage of Dad's life filled the room, telling stories that made people laugh through their tears. Marcus spoke about Dad's honesty and work ethic. Jennifer shared stories about his humor and patience with her kids. When it was my turn, I talked about his quiet faith in forgiveness, how he believed people could always find their way back if they were willing to change. After the burial, the reception hall buzzed with warmth and laughter instead of tension. That's when Patricia, who had barely looked me in the eye for months, approached me, tears streaming down her cheeks. Emily, she said, voice trembling, I owe you a real apology. It was my idea to exclude you. I was insecure. You made everything look easy, business, finances, even handling Dad's illness. I felt stupid and left behind. Instead of admitting that, I lashed out. I studied her face. She meant it. Patricia, intelligence isn't about knowing everything, I said gently. It's about being willing to learn, to grow, and to ask for help when you need it. She nodded, wiping her tears. Will you teach me? About business, about money? I don't want to feel powerless anymore. I want to contribute. I smiled genuinely for the first time that day. I'd love that. Over the next several months, the transformation in our family was almost unreal. Marcus enrolled in a business program and started working part-time at one of my funeral homes, learning the trade from the ground up. Jennifer took over organizing our family finances, creating clear budgets and plans instead of relying on hidden help. Patricia launched her own small event planning company, focusing on memorial services and life celebrations, a perfect blend of creativity and compassion. For the first time in years, family dinners weren't quiet or tense. We talked openly about goals, challenges, money, and dreams. No one pretended to have it all figured out. We were honest, humble, and supportive. 6 months after Dad's funeral, Marcus stopped by my office with a look of pride instead of envy. "Guess what?" he said. "Amanda says I've finally mastered the logistics scheduling system." I smiled. "Good." Because I was about to make it official, assistant manager at the Carson City location. He froze. "You're serious?" "Completely," I said. "You've earned it." He hugged me, something he hadn't done since we were kids. And for the first time in decades, the Carter family finally felt whole, flawed, imperfect, but whole. Marcus had surprised everyone, especially me. In just half a year, he'd gone from the guy who couldn't manage a grocery budget to one of the most reliable people at Silver Oak Memorials. He'd started with the simplest tasks, sweeping walkways, arranging chairs before services, maintaining the grounds. But he never complained, never acted like the work was beneath him. By the 3rd month, he'd moved up to administrative assistant, handling scheduling and family communications with a calm professionalism that impressed even Amanda Lee, who wasn't easily impressed. A few weeks later, he began shadowing our grief counselors, listening, observing, and eventually guiding families through their first conversations after loss. One evening, as we locked up the Carson City office, he lingered by the door. "I never thought I'd say this," he admitted, his voice soft but steady. "But I love this work, Em. I really do. Helping families through the hardest days of their lives, it's meaningful in a way I can't explain. It makes me feel like I'm finally doing something that matters." I looked at him, the glow from the lobby lights catching his tired but peaceful face. "Dad would be proud of the man you're becoming," I said. He smiled. "Yeah, and I'm proud to be your brother. I'm proud you never gave up on us, even when we didn't deserve it." Those words stayed with me long after we closed up that night. Jennifer's kids had started spending weekends with me, shadowing Amanda and me at the office, learning about responsibility and the quiet dignity that came with hard work. I paid them minimum wage for their help, filing, organizing floral orders, preparing reception areas. But what mattered more was the confidence they were beginning to build. Patricia's event planning business, Timeless Gatherings, had taken off faster than anyone expected. Within months, she'd signed partnership contracts with 3 of our Silver Oak locations, offering full-service memorial receptions and personalized life celebration events. Watching her take ownership of something meaningful, something she built herself, filled me with a kind of pride I hadn't known I needed. One Sunday evening, 6 months after Dad's funeral, I sat at our family dinner table surrounded by laughter, the smell of roasted chicken, and the faint hum of a country song on the radio. Marcus was teasing Claire about her cooking. Jennifer was telling one of her kids to stop feeding scraps to Raymond's dog under the table. Patricia was scrolling through photos from a recent event, showing Linda a centerpiece she'd designed herself. For the first time in years, no one was competing, resenting, or keeping score. There were no secrets about money, no buried guilt or quiet shame. Just family, real, imperfect, grateful family. As I looked around the table, I realized something Dad used to say was finally true: sometimes love needs to break before it can rebuild stronger. Letting them face the real consequences of their choices had been painful, but necessary. It hadn't been punishment, it was an opportunity. For growth. For self-respect. For change. Dad's funeral, the event that had nearly torn us apart, had become the turning point he probably would have prayed for, a a catalyst that forced honesty, humility, and love back into our lives. That night, as laughter filled the house, I whispered to myself, "We finally made it, Dad." The Carter family finally learned how to be a family.